In a small village where love was pure but life was hard, one young beautiful woman was faced with a choice that would change her life forever. She had two options: a man who truly loved her, or a man who could give her the world. She chose wealth, but what looked like a dream soon became her worst nightmare. This is the story of Adaeze, a story of love, betrayal, regret, and a decision that came with a price she never imagined. Watch till the end, because what happens next will shock you. Welcome to Olu Beauty African Folktales channel. Here we tell you the way it is. Have you subscribed? If not, oh yeah, run kitty kitty, run kata kata. Subscribe, like, comment, and share. Share it with your families and friends. And don't forget to touch the bell button so that you'll be notified each time we put out new video. Oh yeah, grab your popcorn, sit jeje, and enjoy yourself. Oh yeah, let's go there. The sun rose gently over Omaka village, painting the sky with soft shades of gold. The morning breeze carried the smell of roasted corn and fresh palm wine as villagers prepared for another busy day. In a small house at the edge of the village lived Adaeze, a young woman whose beauty was the talk of every nearby town. Her skin glowed like morning dew. Her eyes carried quiet dreams, and her smile could soften even the hardest heart. But Adese's life was far from perfect. Her father had died years ago, leaving her mother, Mama Nkechi, to struggle alone. They survived by selling vegetables in the local market. Some days they ate well, other days they managed with just garri and water. Yet, through all the hardship, one thing remained constant: Obinna. Obinna was a humble, hardworking young man. He was a carpenter's apprentice in the village, known for his honesty and kindness. He had loved Adaeze for years, not because of her beauty alone, but because of her gentle heart. Every evening, he would walk her home from the market, carrying her basket, even when he was tired from work. And he would say, Adaeze, he would say softly, one day I will build you a big house with my hands. You will never suffer again, okay? Adaeze would smile, but deep inside, she wasn't sure. Love was sweet, but poverty was bitter. One hot afternoon, something unusual happened. A convoy of shiny cars drove into Umuaka village, raising dust and drawing attention. Children ran after the cars, shouting in excitement. Women left their stalls. Even the elders stepped out to see what was happening. From one of the cars stepped down Chief Wadike, a wealthy businessman from the city of Lagos. He was everything the village was not: rich, powerful, and commanding. His clothes were expensive, his shoes polished like mirrors, and his presence alone made people bow in respect. Rumors spread quickly. He is looking for a wife, oh, someone whispered. A young, beautiful wife, another added. Adaeze didn't think much of it until the chief saw her. The next day, Chief Wadike visited Adaeze's house. Mama Nkechi nearly fainted when she saw him sitting on their old wooden chair. My daughter, the chief said, looking directly at Adaeze, I have traveled far and wide, but I've never seen a woman as beautiful as you. I want to marry you, the chief said. The room fell silent. Adaeze's heart began to race. Marriage to a rich man? No. This was everything she had secretly dreamed of, a life without suffering. Before she could speak, Mama Nkechi quickly responded, her voice trembling with excitement, and she said, "It will be an honor, Chief. Hey, Chief, you are welcome. Oh." Adaeze glanced at her mother. She could see the hope in her eyes, the kind of hope that only morning could buy. That night, she couldn't sleep. Her mind was filled with two faces, Obinna and Chief Wadike. One offered love, the other offered a life of comfort and wealth. The next evening, Obinna came to see her as usual, but something was different. "Adaeze, my love," he said, smiling, and he continued, "I have good news, oh. My master says I will soon complete my apprenticeship. After that, I will open my own workshop. Then I will come and ask for your hand properly. Okay?" Adaeze felt a sharp pain in her chest. This was the moment. "Obinna," she said slowly, avoiding his eyes. What if, what if life doesn't turn out the way you expected?" she asked. He frowned. "What do you mean?" Obinna asked. "What if I don't want to suffer anymore?" she asked quietly. Obinna's smile faded, and he said, "I don't understand. What do you mean by what you said now?" Tears filled her eyes, but she forced herself to speak, and she said, "My love, Obinna, Chief Nwadike has asked me to marry him." Obinna was shocked. The words hit Obinna like a thunderbolt, and he said, "What? What do you mean? Who? How?" He whispered. "He can give me everything," Adaeze continued, her voice shaking. "A big house, money, comfort. I won't have to struggle again, you know?" Obinna stared at her, his heart breaking right in front of her. And then he said, "And what about love?" He asked softly. "What about what we shared? What about us?" Adaeze hesitated and looked at him and said, "Love?" She swallowed hard. "Love does not feed the stomach, Obinna. You know that one for sure." Those words cut deeper than any knife. Obinna took a step back, his eyes filled with pain, and he said, So, so that's your decision, eh? You want to marry him?" Adaeze nodded, though her heart was screaming. Obinna forced a weak smile and said, hmm, I hope he gives you everything you are looking for." Then he turned and walked away. Adaeze watched him go, her chest heavy, but she did not call him back. The wedding was grand. People from different cities attended. Expensive food, music, and decorations filled the air. Adaeze was dressed like a queen, shining brighter than she ever had before. She left Umuaka village and moved to Lagos with Chief Nwadike. Her new home was a mansion. Everything she had ever dreamed of was now hers. Beautiful clothes, expensive jewelry, servants at her command. At first, she was happy, very, very happy. But slowly, things began to change. Chief Wadike was not the man she thought he was. He was rarely home. When he was cold, distant, sometimes even harsh. Adaeze noticed strange things: late night phone calls, secret meetings, whispers among the servants. One day, she gathered the courage to ask him, and she said, Chief, oh, is everything okay? He looked at her sharply and said, You ask too many questions. Mind your business. Her heart sank. One evening, while searching for something in his study, Adaeze found a file. Inside it were documents and pictures, pictures of other women, young women. Some looked frightened, some looked broken. Her hands began to shake. Who was this man she had married? Just then, she heard footsteps behind her. She turned slowly and saw Chief Wadike standing at the door, his face dark with anger. What are you doing in my study? He asked coldly. Adaeze's heart pounded, and she answered and said, I, I, I was just. Before she could finish, he snatched the file from her hands and said, You should learn to stay where you belong, he said in a low, dangerous voice. For the first time since her marriage, Adaeze felt fear, real fear. That night, Adaeze sat alone in her luxurious room, surrounded by wealth, yet completely empty. Tears rolled down her cheeks as memories flooded her mind. Obinna's smile, his gentle voice, the way he looked at her like she was everything. She covered her face and cried and said, What have I done? What have I done? I left my love. And look at me now. What have I done? Oh, had it been I married Obinna, I couldn't have been in this mess. Oh, who is this man that I married? But Adaeze had no idea that this was only the beginning of her suffering. And somewhere far away in Umuaka village, Obinna was no longer the same man she left behind. Something had changed, something big. So that night was long and heavy. Adaeze lay on her king-size bed, staring at the ceiling of her luxurious room. The soft glow of the chandelier above her did nothing to comfort her troubled heart. Everything felt wrong. The silence in the mansion was not peaceful. It was frightening. Every little sound made her jump. She hugged herself tightly, whispering under her breath, Obinna, I am sorry. Obinna, I am sorry. Obinna, my love, I am sorry. She said. Back in Omaka village, life had moved on, but not without leaving scars. Obinna had changed. The cheerful, loving young man was gone. In his place stood someone quieter, stronger, and more determined. After Adaeze left, he threw himself completely into his work. He barely spoke to anyone, barely smiled. People in the village whispered and they said, That girl broke him, oh, you can see now, he's no more talking. But look at him now, he will go far. Oh." And they were right. Within a year, Obinna completed his apprenticeship and opened his own workshop. His skills were unmatched. His furniture became popular not just in Omaka, but in nearby towns. Soon, customers from cities like Owerri and Onisha began to seek him out. Money started coming in, respect followed, but even with success, there was still an emptiness in his heart. Meanwhile, in Lagos, Adaeze's life was slowly turning into a nightmare. Chief Wadike became more controlling with each passing day. You don't go out without my permission, he would say. You don't talk to anyone unless I approve it. You are my wife. Remember that, okay? He told her. Adaeze felt trapped, like a bird in a golden cage. The servants avoided her. No one spoke freely. It was as if fear lived in the walls of that house. One afternoon, she overheard two maids whispering in the kitchen. One said, "Did you hear what happened to the last wife?" The other answered and said, "Shh! Do you want to lose your job?" On hearing this, Adaeze's heart skipped and she said, "Last wife?" Hmm. That night, she couldn't hold it in anymore. When the chief returned, she gathered courage and asked Chief and said, "Chief, oh, how many wives have you had?" He paused. Slowly, he turned to her, his eyes cold, and he said, "That is none of your concern, okay?" But I heard, before she could finish, his hand slammed hard on the table and he said, "I said it is none of your concern, okay?" Adaeze flinched, her body shaking. She had never seen this side of him so clearly before, and now she couldn't ignore it anymore. Days later, curiosity and fear pushed Adaeze to search again. This time, she was more careful. Late at night, when the chief was away, she returned to his study. Her hands trembled as she opened drawers, checked cabinets, until she found something hidden beneath a locked compartment. Inside were letters, old letters from women. Some begged for help, some spoke of pain, some simply ended abruptly. Adese's heart pounded violently. Then she saw something that made her blood run cold. A newspaper clipping which read, "Businessman linked to wife's mysterious disappearance." Her hands dropped, her breath became heavy, and she shouted and said, "Jesus!" She whispered. Suddenly, the door cracked open. Adaeze froze. Slowly, she turned. Chief Wadike stood there again. This time, he wasn't just angry, he looked dangerous. "You never learn at all, do you?" he said quietly. Adaeze stepped back, fear gripping her completely. I, I was just cleaning. "Enough!" he snapped. He walked toward her slowly, each step heavy. "You think this is a game? Eh?" he asked her. Tears rolled down Adeze's cheeks and she said, "Please, I didn't mean." Before she could finish, he grabbed her arm tightly and said, "You belong to me," he said in a low, terrifying voice. And he continued and said, "And you will behave like it, okay? You will behave as I said, okay?" Adaeze cried out softly as his grip tightened. At that moment, she realized that the truth, she was not a wife, she was a possession. That night, Adaeze couldn't sleep at all. Her mind raced, and she said, "I need to leave. I need to escape. Oh, I need to leave. This is not a house, it's a torment, it's a prison. I need to leave." But how? How? The gates were always guarded. The drivers reported everything. Even the servants watched her carefully. She was completely trapped. Tears soaked her pillow as she whispered again and said, "Oh, Obinna, my love, if only I had listened. If only I had listened. I couldn't have been in this mess." Back in the east, Obinna's life took another turn. One afternoon, a wealthy investor from Port Harcourt visited his workshop and he said, "I have been hearing about your work," the man said, inspecting a beautiful crafted chair. Obinna remained humble and said, "Thank you, sir. I want to partner with you," the man continued. "We can take this business to another level," he told him. On hearing this, Obinna was stunned. This was bigger than anything he had imagined. For the first time in a long while, hope sparked again in his heart. While Obinna was rising, Adaeze was sinking. One was building a future, the other was fighting to survive. And deep down, both were still connected by a past that refused to fade. One morning, something unusual happened. A new driver arrived at the mansion. His name was Emenike. Unlike the others, he seemed kinder. He greeted Adaeze with respect, not fear. "Good morning, madam," he said gently. Adaeze hesitated, then nodded. For the first time in months, she saw a small opportunity, a tiny crack in the wall of her prison. That evening, as Emenike opened the car door for her, she whispered quickly to him and said, "Please, can you help me?" she said. He froze just for a second. Then he looked around carefully and said, "Madam, you should not say such things here, okay?" He replied quietly. "Please," she begged, her voice shaking. "I am not safe here. Please help me." Emenike's expression changed. He could see the fear in her eyes. Real fear. He leaned closer, lowering his voice, and said, "I will think of something, okay? But you must be careful." Oh." Adeze's heart pounded. For the first time in a long while, she felt a small flicker of hope. But she had no idea that Chief Wadike was already watching, and trusting the wrong person might cost her everything. So Adaeze didn't know. She couldn't know that from the dark corners of the mansion, eyes were always watching. Chief Wadike was not just a powerful man, he was a careful one. Nothing escaped him. Not movements, not whispers, not even fear. Days passed slowly, painfully. Adaeze avoided trouble, kept quiet, and acted obedient. But inside, she was planning, waiting, and watching. Emenike, the new driver, had not spoken to her again since that day. But once in a while, their eyes would meet, and in that brief moment, she knew he hadn't forgotten. Then, one evening, as he handed her a small bag after a short trip to the market, their fingers touched. Inside the bag was a folded note. Adeze's heart began to race. She waited until she was alone before opening it. Her hands trembled as she read, and he said, "Tomorrow night, 2 a.m., be ready. Don't bring anything heavy, please." As she read it, her breath caught. This was it. Her chance, her last chance. The mansion was usually quiet that night. Too quiet. Adaeze sat on her bed, fully dressed, her heart beating louder than ever before. Tick, 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 tick. The clock seems to mock her. When it finally struck 2 a.m., she stood up slowly. Every step she took felt like walking on broken glass. She opened her door gently. The hallway was dark, silent. She moved carefully, her bare feet making no sound. As she reached the back door, it cracked. Adaeze froze. Her heart almost stopped, but no one came. She pushed it open and stepped outside, and there was Emenike. Quickly, quickly, he whispered. They moved fast towards the car. Adaeze's hands were shaking as she entered. This was freedom. This was hope. And this was life. But just as the engine started, bright lights flooded the compound. Adaeze's heart dropped. Her worst fear had come alive. Chief Nwadike stepped out from the shadows, slowly, calmly, and dangerously. And he said, I knew it. I knew you have a plan. He said, his voice cold as death. Adaeze's body went numb. Emenike stepped out of the car, his head bowed, and he said, I'm sorry, madam. I'm sorry. He's my oga. I have to tell him everything. I'm sorry. He muttered. The world stopped. Adaeze stared at him in disbelief, and she said, You told him? Ah, you are wicked, oh, she whispered. Emenike didn't look at her, and he said, I had no choice. You know he's my master. I had no choice, oh. Chief Nwadike chuckled darkly and said, There is always a choice, oh, he said. He simply chose wisely, unlike you. Adaeze's knees grew weak. Even hope had betrayed her. Then Chief Nwadike walked closer, very, very close, too close, and he said, You wanted to run, eh? He asked quietly. Adaeze couldn't speak. Tears streamed down her face. I gave you everything, he continued, and this is how you repay me, eh? Then Adaeze replied and said, I didn't ask for this kind of life. Oh. She cried suddenly and she continued and said, I only wanted peace, only peace. Oh. Immediately, he slapped her hard. The sound echoed in the night. Adaeze fell to the ground. Pain shot through her body, but the pain in her heart was worse. You don't get to choose peace, okay? Chief Nwadike said coldly. Not anymore. I will deal with you. Then, just as the tension reached its peak, a loud noise shattered the silence. Everyone froze. Within seconds, police vehicles stormed the compound. Officers rushed in, shouting commands. Chief Nwadike, you are under arrest, they said. Confusion filled the air. Chief Nwadike turned sharply and said, What nonsense is this? An officer stepped forward and said, We have evidence linking you to multiple cases of kidnapping and disappearance. Adaeze's eyes widened. Kidnapping? Disappearance? Oh, it was all true. Everything she had feared. As the police moved in, a familiar figure stepped out from one of the vehicles. Adaeze's breath caught. Obinna! Yes, it was him. But he looked different, stronger, confident, and not alone. Standing beside him was the investor from Port Harcourt, the same man who had partnered with him. Obinna walked forward slowly, his eyes fixed on Adaeze, and he said, I tried to forget, he said quietly, but when I heard rumors about this man, I couldn't ignore. I couldn't ignore it, he told her. He looked at the chief and he said, My partner has connections. We investigated and what we found were reported. Chief Nwadike was furious and he said, You think you can destroy me? But it was already too late. Handcuffs clicked around his wrist. His power was gone. As the police took Chief Nwadike away, the mansion felt different, lighter, free. Adaeze stood there, trembling, alive, safe, but broken. Days later, Adaeze returned to Umuaka village, but nothing felt the same. People whispered, some pitied her, some judged her. She didn't blame them, she blamed herself. One evening, she saw Obinna standing under the same tree where they used to talk. Her heart tightened. She walked slowly toward him and she said, Obinna, she called softly. He turned. For a moment, silence stood between them. And she said, I'm sorry, she said, tears filling her eyes. And she continued and said, I choose wrong. I lost everything, Obinna, my love. I lost everything. Obinna looked at her, not with anger, not with love, but with calm understanding. And he said, we all make choices, Adaeze. He said gently, and we all live with them, okay? Her heart broke again. Can you ever forgive me? She asked. Obinna sighed and looked at her and said, I forgave you a long time ago. Hope flickered in her chest. He continued and said, but some things can't be the same again, he told her. The hope faded completely. Obinna had moved on. His life had grown. And though he still cared in some quiet corner of his heart, the love they once shared was gone. Adaeze watched him walk away one last time. This time, she didn't stop him. Adaeze stayed in the village, starting over with nothing, no wealth, no luxury, just lessons, hard, painful lessons. She walked with her mother again, this time with humility. She learned that wealth without peace is empty, luxury without love is a prison, and some choices once made cannot be undone. And as the sun set over Umuaka village, Adaeze sat quietly, staring into the distance, not as the girl who once chased riches, but as a woman who finally understood the true cost of her decision. Thank you for watching. This is where our story ends. But before we end it, let's look into our moral lessons. Life will always present us with choices, but not all choices come with a second chance. Adaeze choose wealth over love, comfort over character, and appearance over truth. But in the end, she discovered that true happiness cannot be bought and peace cannot be forced. The lesson is simple. Never trade genuine love, peace of mind, and good character for temporary comfort or material things. Because when the glitter fades, reality remains. Choose wisely. Remember, money can buy a house, but not a home. It can buy attention, but not true love. It can buy comfort, but not peace. Adaeze had everything many people dream of. Yet, she lost the one thing that truly mattered, a heart that loved her sincerely. Let this story remind you that the value of a good person in your life is far greater than any amount of money. Don't realize it when it's already too late. Regret is one of the most painful teachers in life. It doesn't shout, it whispers. It doesn't come early. It comes when it's already too late to change certain things. Adeze's story is not just a story, it is a warning. Before you make any major decision in life, ask yourself, will I be proud of this choice tomorrow? Because some doors, once closed, may never open again. Sometimes what looks like a blessing on the outside may be a hidden trap on the inside. Not every opportunity is meant for you. Not every open door leads to peace. Adaeze ignored the quiet voice of wisdom and followed the loud voice of temptation. Let this be a reminder. Always seek wisdom, patience, understanding before making life changing decisions because what is meant for you will never come with confusion, fear, and destruction. Life is not just about the mistakes we make, but the lessons we learn from them. And there is a lost love, lost peace, and lost time. But she gains something just as powerful, understanding. And sometimes understanding is what rebuilds a broken life. No matter how far you've gone in the wrong direction, you can still choose a better path. Learn, grow, become wiser. Because every ending can still lead to a new beginning. Finally, in the end, Adaeze didn't lose because she was poor. She lost because she chose wrongly. Let this story stay with you. The wrong decision at the right time can destroy a lifetime of happiness. But the right decision, even when it's hard, can build a future you'll never regret. Choose with wisdom, not pressure. Choose with patience, not greed. Choose with your heart, not just your eyes. Now, what will you have done if you were in Adaeze's shoes? Would you choose love or wealth? Remember, her story teaches us that not everything that shines is gold, and sometimes the choices we make in a moment can shape our entire life. Thank you once again for watching. Please, if this story touched your heart, don't forget to like this video, share it with someone who needs to hear this message, and subscribe to the channel for more powerful and life-changing stories. And touch the bell button so that you'll be notified each time we put out new video. Also, drop your thoughts in the comment section. I really want to hear from you. See you in the next story where lessons are learned the hard way. God bless you all. Love you. Bye bye. Mwah.